So today I'm going to do a review on a knife made by Hardcore Hardware. It's a company out of Australia, and I was sent their BFK01 knife, or 01 knife. And these knives and these tools are designed in conjunction with the Special Forces over in Australia, which are a pretty hardcore group of dudes. And I was sent one of their knives to go test out and give my impressions on. So let's go check out the specs. The overall length for this knife is just over 12 inches. The blade length is a little over 6.5 inches, and the thickness is 7 millimeters, which is just over a 1/4 inch thick. The steel is D2, and the knife has a black Teflon finish. The sheath that it comes with is a Cordura nylon with a Kydex insert, and instead of having a pouch already pre-done in the front of it, it has MOLLE webbings. So you can attach any pouch that you want to, and on the back side as well, it also has a MOLLE attachment for attaching onto your backpack or your plate carrier or whatever you have. It's retained in there with 2 Velcro straps, and the handle is a paracord wrap. And what they did with this is they kind of coated it in like an acrylic solution, and what that does, I'm assuming, is that keeps the stank away when you're using it for a long time, because if you guys have ever had a paracord bracelet or paracord gear that's always in contact with your sweaty hands and your skin, they can get pretty rank after a while. So we're going to take this knife through the standard test. We're going to chop with it, we're going to baton with it, and then we're going to see how well this thing whittles. So hope you guys enjoy the review. So let's go ahead and try and chop with this thing. It is a hollow grind, so it's a little bit sharper or slicier than a flat ground blade or saber grind. And it's also pretty heavy, so it should have a lot of energy putting into it. This is a 3-inch piece of cedar, like most of my videos are, and let's give it a go. Even though it's pretty heavy and it's rather sharp, it cuts paper pretty well. I would say it's probably a medium duty chopper. Part of me was holding back a little bit because the handle is so coarse, I guess you could say. Paracord handles for me are usually not a problem, but when they put the acrylic on there, it made it quite a bit harsher, I guess, on the hands. So I wasn't able to put my full weight into the chop, but it did chop through it pretty well. Once it started going, it went pretty good. The fact that it's heavy helps out a lot, but I would definitely reconsider the handle. There's a different version in G10, and I think that might be better for non-gloved use. So I don't usually like to use gloves when I'm working with wood and knives and that sort of thing, so I can really get a good feel on the knife. But yeah, it's a little bit rough for my hands. But before we go ahead and baton with this thing, I wanted to see how well this serrated back part goes, because I said it can chop through or saw through branches and that sort of thing. So let's give it a go. The saw back, or the harsh serrations that are on the back of this blade, are not meant for cutting wood. And I think the reason for that is because the serrations on it are straight across. There's no slope or anything like that. So once it has the initial bite, which it does pretty well, it just kind of glides over it like an ice skate. So there's not much for it to keep on progressing through the cut. So now that I have tested out the back serrations on some small branches, figured that doesn't really work that well, let's see how well this does with batoning. There's a nice flat edge right at the tip where most people like to baton, and that's where I'm going to be smacking today with my handy dandy baton that I made off screen. This is a piece of cedar. It's lightweight, but it is long, so I can put a lot of speed into the cut. So let's give this a go. So this knife did pretty good at splitting and batoning and that sort of thing. A little bit thicker than what I'm used to as far as good splitters go, so it does phenomenally well. The back of the tip is wide enough so that it doesn't bite in too much onto the baton, so you're not going to be switching it out too often. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of feather sticking with this. So the knife did pretty good. In the beginning there was a little bit of some hiccups, mainly because it was just starting out. I would say that right here next to the end of the blade isn't that great for carving, and I would say that to make this a little more efficient, they should have brought this all the way back or made that nice and round so you could choke up on it, because there's just a little bit too much leverage when it's further out here. So all in all, I think this is a pretty decent knife. Probably not one of my favorites, and at the price point that it's at, I would expect a little bit better design, at least in terms of the serration / saw teeth in the back. They didn't do too well on wood and that sort of thing, but they might do pretty decent on like a fuselage of a plane where it's aluminum instead of wood. But it chopped pretty decently, despite the fact that I couldn't put my full weight into it for a hard swing because the handle is a little bit rough on my hands, and my hands aren't that soft. They're pretty tough, but you know, I still wasn't able to do a full-on swing. Carving with it was pretty decent, although I wish they brought the blade all the way to the handguard so that you could really work the leverage on it. It split really well, it chopped pretty decently, and yeah, overall I think it's a pretty decent knife. So I hope you guys liked the review. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys have any questions about this knife, feel free to ask me either in the comments or in a personal message. Doesn't really matter, but as always, take care out there.